Good afternoon. Welcome to the second episode of Ken's Kitchen, back by popular demand. Today we're going to be cooking the not yet world famous and always mentioned in class Puree pasta sauce. These are the ingredients dictated to me by my mother over 40 years ago, and I have not changed a thing, including the strange way I measure the water, but we'll see that later. So come on in, let's take a look at what you should have at your disposal. All right, the ingredients, in no particular order: whole tomatoes, whole peeled tomatoes. Tomato paste, please don't use tomato sauce, you'll be hating life. 2 large yellow onions, cut into eighths, skinned and desectioned, and I'll show you how to do that for this one. 5 healthy cloves of garlic, 6 or 7 if they're wimpy. 1 bunch of basil, leaves only, no stems, and not the crown part, which would be right here. Basil, interestingly enough, is part of the mint family, and the crown is very, very pungent, and its flavor will come through. So leaves only, no stem, no crown. Pair of utility shears are always a good idea. The dry seasonings would be salt, pepper, sugar. No comments. I've gotten some comments about Italian students regarding sugar in my pasta sauce. Deal with it. Olive oil, of course. The tools, along with a couple of hot pads, safety, safety, safety. Cast iron skillet, and we'll talk about why in just a minute. This cast iron skillet has been with me my entire adult life. If it looks shiny and non-stick, it's because it is. Cook with a cast iron skillet. The more you cook with it, the better it gets. So the tool of choice for most home cooks, iron skillet. Again, thanks to my mother, something called a Dutch oven. I don't know what a Dutch oven is, but I'm supposed to use it. So I've used it for my pasta sauce my entire adult life. And if you don't have a wooden spoon, press pause and go get a wooden spoon. And over here on this counter, this will be marinara meat sauce. So the meat sauce will have some ground meat. Today we're using veal. My apologies, please no comments, it's veal. Get over it, steak was veal once too. All right, so with everything handy, let's get started. All right, let's get the ingredients in. The whole tomatoes, and as dictated to me by my mother, I should be saying that a lot, 3/4 of a can of water. I have no idea how much that is. Over 40 years, I never thought to measure it. You can tell as I'm twisting the can, I'm just making sure to rinse out all the contents, all the yummy little bits. The lid too, be careful, so you finish up with 9 fingers. I'm sorry, 10 instead of 9. All right. Just rinse off the can lid. Life is good. All right, the tomato paste. The tomato paste is very uncooperative, so butter knife would help. Boom. Do your best. Get that out. Got it. There's no right way to do this. The right way is to get it done. Continuing with the strange measuring 2 cans of water. Again, never thought to measure how much it is, just so I can get all the yummy bits in here. And just kind of do that, swirl that around. Make sure you're careful so you don't add some blood to the mix. Okay. All right, all good. Oh, I forgot to rinse off the lid. I'm over it. All right, on with the ingredients. All right, the onions, once they're peeled and cut into eighths, you want to section them or desection them. Get everything out like this. It's not only the onion itself, it's the surface area exposed that helps the flavor integrate. So it's a bit of a pain, forgive me if I start crying, but desection all of these. Just kind of like this. And if 1 or 2 don't separate, that's fine. Waste not, want not. Get every little bit in there.
Somebody's watching you, waiting for you to drop something.
Well, hopefully he doesn't wait for me to drop one of those onion sections. All right, now the garlic. All good Italians know there's only one way to peel and skin garlic. You get all these things on 5-minute crafts on Facebook on how to roll them in a little silicone roller or shake them in a jar, but nothing beats the good old-fashioned boom, knife blade, boom. Helps you get out a little aggression while you're at it. Not that Italians have any extra aggression, no. All right, get the skin off, called the paper. And it doesn't matter how messed up it is, it goes in. I have no idea. Whoops, I just dropped one. Fortunately, our canine guest did not see that, so I'm going to bend over and get it. There you go. It'll sterilize in the cooking. Shh, don't tell anyone. That extra secret flavor. Oh, okay. And then now, one bunch of basil. Typically basil sold like this at Rayleigh's, or if you get in a regular bunch, just buy what they have. One bunch is fine, and it will change seasonally. Your on-season spring and summer bunches will be a little more generous. The winter time's a little more stingy. It doesn't matter that much. The important part, though, is what we said before. Leaves only, no stems. Very, very common not to use stems for herbs. Okay, and that's it. There you go. Remember, no crowns. All right, so the basil goes in. Got that and that. And now the seasonings. This is a half a teaspoon measuring, just so it fits nicely. 4 of these. I know you can do the math. That's 2 teaspoons of salt. 2 teaspoons of sugar, so that's 4 of these. Half a teaspoon of black pepper. I would love to use this, but honestly, I have no idea how many turns half a teaspoon is. So I have to resort to the red and white can. And I was told 3 tablespoons of olive oil, but like any good Italian, I have no idea how much 3 tablespoons is. So a 3 count. 1, 2, 3, and a little extra. Done. All right, and now the onion preparation as promised. So cut the ends off. Keep your workspace clean. Do you know how to peel an onion? Don't miss. Just like that. And then peel around. Whoops. There you go. Nice and peeled. All right, 8 is 2 to the 3rd, so you want to make sure that every cut cuts every piece in twice as many pieces. So there we are in 4ths, and there we are in 8ths. Easy peasy, no tears. All right, bring it back, and same thing as the other one, just to show you how to prep the onion. A good skill for countless dishes that require sauteed onions. You would probably yellow onion this way. All right, you might have been wondering what the kitchen shears were for. And when I give you a rundown of the ingredients, I'll tell you a little bit more about this. But headed out to our herb garden. And here we have dill. My wife happens to like dill a great deal. I do not. Shh, don't tell her. 2 varieties of thyme. Like perpetual green onions growing from grocery store scraps. Don't buy green onions. Just put the bulbs in here, grow them, cut them as you need them. You'll have them all the time. But I'm after the oregano. So any long stem looks good like that. All right. As always, leaves only. I would backstrip it like that, but I don't want to get any stems either. So leaves only. A little extra time, but it's worth it in the finished product. All right, that's it. A recap on the ingredients. So 1 can of whole peeled tomatoes, doesn't matter what brand, no seasoning on those tomatoes. So a can of whole peeled tomatoes, can of tomato paste, not tomato sauce. The seasonings are 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I know I did 2 and I'll tell you why. 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 2 teaspoons of sugar, half a teaspoon of ground black pepper, 3 tablespoons approximately of olive oil, 2 large yellow onions, cut or peeled, cut and dessectioned, 1 bunch of basil, 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Did I mention that?
Mm-hmm. And did you put some garlic in?
And 5 cloves of garlic, peeled and smashed, or smashed and peeled. Got that? And 1 sprig of fresh oregano only. Only. If you do not have fresh oregano, do not use dry oregano. Trust me, even if you like the taste, which I happen not to, you are now not to like it.
You can find fresh oregano in the grocery stores.
What she said. All right, set your timer for 90 minutes. And go. You know what? Because we're going to show this from start to finish, I'm going to set my timer for 10 minutes. 10 minutes to get it to a boil. So a stir. So cooking instructions coming up, so pay attention. 10 minutes to get it to a boil, 10. Stir it, set it to a simmer, 90 minutes. And then we'll move to the puree stage. So we're gonna let this do its thing, and I'll get back to you in 60 minutes for the sauteed veal portion of the recipe. It's been 60 minutes cooking, or the sauce has been cooking for 60 minutes, so we're in our last 30 minutes of what's called the unpureed cooking stage. Note on that, you can cook the sauce in the unpureed form longer than 90 minutes. 90 minutes is just the minimum it takes. So cook it, integrate the flavors, and get rid of that raw tomato flavor. So if you have to be out, or you leave it on the stove, or it cooks for 2 hours, it's fine. It's fine, 90 minutes minimum. So it's been on for 60 minutes. I'm gonna set the timer for 30 more minutes, and now we're on to the saute or browning of the meat section. I'm heating our handy dandy cast iron pan, and give it a couple minutes to get a little bit warmer. Let me mention again about salt. You may have noticed in the previous sections, I had oscillated between 1.5 teaspoons of salt and 2 teaspoons of salt, and that's my fault, so let me take a quick second to clarify that. Standard recipe, non-meat sauce, 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Meat sauce, 2 teaspoons. With the extra volume and the meat anyway, more salt is warranted. You're gonna see that I'm gonna salt the meat while I'm browning it also, but very, very sparingly. So you decide. But I found that if I do 1.5 teaspoons of salt in a meat sauce, it's flat and I wind up salting it at the table. So enough of that, let's get on to browning the meat. Okay, here are 2 packages, open packages of veal, a pound each. So for this batch, 2 pounds of meat. So I'm gonna brown it 1/4 of the total, so 1/2 pound at a time. And I'll just do 1 of those to show you, and then I'll do the other 3. Just take it like this. And if you happen to have a canine or feline visitor, which we have, give them a pinch. Rusty. Oh, boy. Yeah, I know, I can't help myself. Okay, so kind of crumple it up, excuse me. Getting it around the pan as best you can. If you crowd it, it's just gonna steam and it's gonna go gray and it's gonna look gross. So around the pan as much as you can. Medium to medium-high heat. Quick rinse off of my hands. Wash. And while it's browning in that first position, give it a little bit of seasoning. Again, like I said, sparing on the salt. And enough pepper to drape over it. I wish we had smell-o-vision. This is wonderful. All right, you want to let it sit and brown in this first position until you see the meat juices come up, which haven't really happened yet. And you get a nice browning, hence the verb brown, on that side, and then you just jostle it around like this. And I'll do a little bit right now, just like that. And you can see that's not quite ready. So I'm gonna finish browning this, set it aside, do the other 3 portions, and I'll be right back. All right, the sauce has been cooking for the additional 30 minutes for 90 minutes total. All 4 batches of the veal have been browned. It's time for the puree stage. So, as you'll see here, ladle, scraper thing, not sure what it's called, I'm gonna go with scraper. Something to keep your pot from destroying your countertop. Yes, it's granite. Everyone says, oh, you can put hot stuff on granite. The guys that installed it said you can pop small crystals, I guess, I'm not a granite expert, out of granite by putting a hot pot on it. So use a trivet, cutting board, dish towel, whatever you got. Old school blender. This is an Osterizer Classic. So I'm not being a spokesman for Osterizer. My last blender that lasted 20 years was an Osterizer. All the newfangled ones, how old can I possibly sound, just don't hold up to an old school Osterizer. It has 1 speed on. That's it. No puree, no frappe, no blend, just 1 speed. Blend. That's it. Let me get the pot, show you how that's going to go. Oh, I wish we had smell-o-vision. Okay, that's what it looks like right there. You can't really see too much. It spilled a little bit. If I move the camera, then I won't be able to reposition it, so no good on that one. All right, so get your blender as close to your pot as you can. Here. Make sure you have a separate pot to receive the pureed sauce. So, much as I hate to dirty up another pot, I've got to do it. So that's going to be there to receive the pureed sauce because I'm going to do it in batches. So, safety. All right, and just ladle it in about 2/3 of the way full maximum, or you're going to be scraping pasta sauce off of your ceiling and Googling how to treat second-degree burns. So, 2/3 of the way, trust me. That's about right. On. Turn it on the only speed, on. Now what I do, I'm actually going to hit the pulse to get it spinning and then switch it to on and leave it blending for about 60 seconds. And you'll see that if you, well, I'm not going to do it, but if you were to try to just turn it on again, redecorating your kitchen and Googling how to treat second-degree burns. So get it going a little bit. Now on. A minute is about all it takes, and you'll know it's blended by the color that you can see around here. You just don't see any bits of anything anymore. It's all pureed, fully blended, and you'll know it's ready. So that's it. Take the top off. Take a very careful whiff. Smell-o-vision. Okay, into the holding pot. All right, 4 more rounds, and I'll be right back. The last batch has been pureed and put back in the original pot. Always a good idea to rinse out your blender pieces, which means you should take them apart. Now is a good time. I'm gonna put them in the dishwasher anyway, but it's always good to rinse them out while whatever is on them is fresh, so it doesn't dry on there. Put the lid. And don't forget the body of your blender. Interesting. People forget, and then it gets really gross. Even though it's sealed, it's never perfect. So a little bit always comes out. All right. Cord in there. Done. All right, so here's the pureed sauce. Time to add the meat. So those are all 4 batches, because I did them in half-ounce batches of the veal, seasoned and sauteed, and delicious. Just pop it right in there. Any amount of oil that has come out while it was sitting, add that in. Quick stir. Could I make another smell-o-vision comment? Wow, that's good. Okay. So I'm going to put that back on the stove, covered, simmering for 30 minutes longer. Then you are done. It's done, done, done. You have enough for dinner and 2 extra jars, which I'll show you in a minute. If you're cooking meatballs, they would go back in here. That's the way I cook them, is you'll form your meatballs, you'll make them in here, cook them for another 45 minutes or an hour until they float. But the basic, structure of a regular pasta sauce, meat sauce, and meatballs is the same. The pasta sauce, and then it is the cooking medium for whatever else you're adding to it. All right, so back on the stove. Let's see if I can show you what it looks like. Forgive me. There we go. Whoops. Right there. So you can't, it's all nice and smooth, and you can't really tell that it's a meat sauce unless you pull it up there and see it like that. Okay. So that's ready to go. Set your timer for 30 minutes. Go. Simmer. And you will have the best pasta sauce ever. One thing I forgot to mention, it's always a good idea to have spare jars. Most Italian families, myself included, will have a bunch of these. Typically they're mayonnaise jars, or you can get the actual, what do they call mason jars. These are Ball brand jars that you can get at the store. Make sure you have some, because this was the last batch I made, and this was 1/3 of it. The meat increases the volume quite a bit. So we had enough for that dinner, and then 2 more jars frozen. Anytime you want pasta sauce, make it, freeze the extra, so in the future you can have it anytime. Set this baby out in the morning. Don't put it in warm water. Don't do anything. Just set it out on the counter. Leave it alone. By dinner time, it's ready. So it's always good to have some extra. All right, we're calling this done. So from Ken's Kitchen, bon appetit.